Hi guys, and welcome back to the vlog. Now this week I'm going to be giving you some top tips on how to pack your bike to take it on a plane. Now bike boxes are very expensive, so my top tips and hacks this week, they're going to be on a budget. Right, and I've also got a competition for you today guys, so make sure you tune in right to the very bitter end. Right, so before you start taking apart your bike, you've got to decide what you're going to put it in. Now, as I said, hard shell bike boxes can be very expensive, with some of them costing upwards of £500. Now, this one right here from Avenir, which was kindly donated to me by Jeffrey Butler Cycles, is just £59.99. Now, it is a soft shell, and there's a reason why I like soft shell bags. I mean, yes, you get a little bit more protection with a hard shell case, but with soft shell, good value for money, and you can pack them away very easily when you're not using them. So it's good for the cupboard space as well. First thing you're going to remember to do before you do anything else is take your pedals off, and if you don't do it at the start, believe me, it'll be an absolute nightmare to get them off further down the line. Now, you can't leave your pedals on your bike when you put it in your bike bag or bike box because it's too wide, so it will not fit in. So got to remember to do it while you've got tension on the chain. And also with pedals and also shoes, these are things that you should probably carry in your hand luggage, so if your bike bag does go missing, then you've got your essentials to be able to put on a spare bike if you're going to rent one when you get there. Now, if you're taking more than one pair of shoes, you can leave one in the bike box, one with you, but always make sure that you have a spare pair of shoes and your pedals in carry-on hand luggage. Packing a bike up is an easy thing. I mean, as far as tools are concerned, all you need is a pedal spanner like I've just used and a multi-tool. Jobs are good. And I mean, if you have a torque wrench, then great, because then you can torque the bolts up to the exact right tension. Next thing, take the saddle off. As you can see, everything here is integrated. The bolt for the seat post is actually underneath the top tube here. I've just undone this, so it wedges it in place, and you've got to unwedge the locking pin. So I'm really sorry, Colnago lovers, you're gonna have to see me hit my bike. Right, now this should slide straight out now. There we go, look. Now, one thing I always make sure to do when you're loosening off bolts and taking your seat post or your bars off, then always remember to do the bolts up a little bit so you do not lose really important things for your bike to build it back up. This bolt is specific to Colnago, and the chances of me finding another one of them in Mallorca is fairly slim. Right, once you've got the seat post off, here comes our first safety hack. Now, as I said, you don't have a hard shell bike box to protect your bike this time, so instead you're going to be using some of this. It's bubble wrap, it's cheap, it's cheerful, it protects pretty much anything in transit, and it's going to protect our bike. Job done, ready to go in the bag. Right, next thing, wheels off, let the air out the tyres and chuck them in the bag. Right, next up, rear mech. But the hard thing with stuff like rear mechs and your saddle is the fact they're non-flat surfaces, which makes them very hard to protect. So that's where bubble wrap comes in, and it is so useful for that. And that's exactly what I'm going to wrap this rear mech in now. Right, now you've got to cut the bubble wrap to size again. I'm using slightly different wrap compared to what I use for my seat post, because with the rear mech being so small, I've got to be able to wrap every single little bit of it, so I can't have as bigger bubbles in the wraps I had the last one. So these are actually very small, as you can see. Now I start by wrapping the corner underneath the rear mech, and you fold it over the top. And then fold the sides in. And then you finish it off with a little bit of sticky tape. Right, so I am not running Di2, I'm running mechanical durags. I mean, the cables are very, very short on mechanical group sets these days, in the design to keep things tidy and looking aesthetically nice, but it can pose problems for packing your bike up. The little trick that I've discovered over the years is moving your rear mech inside the frame and attaching it to the inside of the seat stays. Now, yes, you want to protect your frame as well, but your rear mech is very, very important. If you damage that rear hanger, you will not be riding your bike at all. So the outside of the frame almost acts as a little bit of a shield to make sure that nothing touches that rear mech, as you can see right here. Right, now we're going to absolutely go to town on wrapping this frame. I mean, we are putting it in a bike bag, but when it comes to traveling, I'd rather be safe than sorry. Pipe lagging will be your absolute savior if you've never used it. Now, it's shaped perfectly well for going around tube profiles on your frame, and you can wrap literally every single part of it, and it's dirt cheap. Go down to any plumbers, you'll find heaps and heaps and heaps of the stuff, most of which they're probably trying to chuck away, so you probably find you get it for free as well. Now, the last thing we've got to do before we finish protecting the frame is fashion something of sorts to protect your chain set, and this is where cardboard comes in, and it's just going to act as a shield to stop it getting any knocks or dents in that beautiful metalwork. Right, now that we've got our frame fully protected, the last thing we're going to do before we can put our bike in the bike bag is to take our bar and stem off. Now, a lot of bars and stems these days are fully integrated, which means you've only got one option to remove them, and that's removing them from the steerer tube. Mine, however, I've got a two-piece bar and stem, but the same principle applies, and that's removing it from the steerer tube rather than just taking your bars off and twisting the stem. Now, there's a very, very good reason why I do this, and it's one to remember if you don't know this. Now, bars, obviously, as you know, are hollow, so whether they're aluminium or specifically carbon, if you're constantly undoing and then doing back up bolts, putting tension through the bars, you're at risk of potentially cracking it. Now, you do not want to have failing bars while you're riding your bike. There is no saving yourself from that, and you're going to be very, very injured. The difference with the steerer tube is you've got an expander plug inside to put tension through the headset, so it stops it from being crushed in the same way as you do with the bars. Right, now, obviously, if you're going to be taking the entirety of your stem and bar off, you're going to lose tension in your headset. Now, there's a very easy way to combat this. Either you can stack it up with extra spacers and put the headset back together, or you can just use another stem like I've got here. Now, this has been my go-to traveling stem, which I always put on my bike. Put it on reverse, keeps it out of the way, in line with the top tube, and it keeps the bike together in one piece, and a far cleaner job. Right, now, as you can see, the way I've attached the stem and bars, I've twisted the forks here, kept the new stem in line with the top tube to keep it out of the way, and then I've positioned my bar and stem for the bike against the side of my frame, but making sure there's no contact points with bare carbon and aluminium. So the contact points being on the down tube, where we've got the pipe lagging, and also on the top tube as well, we've got more pipe lagging, so it's perfectly protected. Now, I've twisted my forks to do this to make sure I didn't have any excessive bend in the cables. I mean, you do not want to be damaging the cables in transit. You don't want to have to be doing a complete new recabling job when you get there with, unfortunately, bent cables, and then your shifting not being good. Now, you don't need to let all the air out, just the majority. I mean, you can have like 10 psi in there and it'll be absolutely fine. You just don't want to explode the rims when you get the change in air pressure up in the sky. Also, always remove your skewers. Right, now our last modification for our bike bag is this cardboard box. Now, I mean, I'd be looking at this thinking like, what on earth are you going to be doing with that? Well, let me tell you, because we're going to be cutting it in half and it's going to act as a base and a lid to our bike to stop it from getting crushed in any direction. Now, this is really just an extra inner shell to give it that little bit more protection, but you know what, it's dirt cheap. And if you go down to your local bike shop, there's every chance they'll give you one for free. Like I did with Jeffrey Butler, so thanks guys. Right, now is the time to put our bike in the bike bag for the first time. As you can see, we've got our cardboard box inside here, inside the bike bag, ready to go. In the corners all folded up like it would have been when it was first assembled. Now we're going to put the rear of the bike in first. This is the most delicate part. I'm going to be putting this at the back of the box. So as you can see, just drop it in before we put our cardboard lid on our bike and close up our bike bag, ready for travel and destination sunny Mallorca. We've got to put our saddle and seat post back in the bag. Not going to get very far without this, so this is going to go in. It's fully wrapped up in bubble wrap, so it's not going to damage your frame. We're going to put that underneath the down tube, which is where there is the most amount of space. Now, before you might pack your suitcase, most people who are going away on a cycling holiday, it's not just going to be a bike bag you'll be taking with you. It'll be a bike bag or box, it'll be a suitcase and a hold-all for the cabin. Now, weight distribution is absolutely key, because with a bike bag you're allowed up to 23 kilos on most airlines, whereas a suitcase it's considerably less. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I've always struggled to make it underneath the weight limit with my suitcase. So what I've tended to do is distribute my weight amongst all my bags, putting the most important things in my hold-all, so whether it be a pair of shoes, a pair of pedals, things that I cannot live without if something were to go missing. But in the bike bag, put some kit in there, put some nutritional products, make sure you've got a little bit of everything in every bag, so you're not going to do without if something goes amiss. Now, I've often put clothes in here, I've put nutritional products, helmets wrapped in bubble wrap, you don't want to damage them. But distribute that weight out, because you do not, I repeat, you do not want to be getting any excess baggage charges. I mean, I'd much rather spend that on coffee. So all of my essential parts, I've put them in little plastic sandwich bags so I don't lose them. So that's skewers, pedal spanner and my multi-tool. I mean, there are a few small pieces there, so as I said before, you do not want to be losing any of these. So I'm going to go and put these in my hold-all for the cabin to make sure they are under a watchful eye. Right guys, so that is it done for this week's bike packing vlog. I hope you guys enjoyed it and found it insightful. You don't have to spend an absolute top dollar to be able to protect your bike while you're traveling. Let me know what your favorite hack of mine was. And before we go, I did say there's a competition. Now the competition is to win a month's worth of training with me. So I will coach you for a month to do whatever you want to do to be the best rider you can possibly be. And all I want you to do is tell me what your best hack is for bike travel. I'm going to pick my favorite one. I'm going to announce it next week, and then I'll see the winner in training. Now, if you enjoyed this vlog, guys, make sure you give it a like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you out on the roads. Ciao.